Simple reason. One, all of you are teachers. All of you have been invigilators at exams. And I thought you will apply your minds as professionals to the task here. And the task is simple. An exam is in progress, and you see one student copying, right? And you know he's copying. What do you do? So you have 5 options there, right? The point is, which of these would you choose if you were the teacher, right? Now, that's not a very easy choice. Not very many of you, in fact, none of you is probably going to say, I'll ignore the cheating student, right? Because then you're kind of collaborating with the crime. You're colluding with the crime, right? Some of you will probably say, I'll go up to the one who's cheating, the student, and whisper in his ears, please don't consult those notes. Don't cheat, right? And you walk away. Some of you will go to the cheating student, quietly take away the note or notes he's been copying from, then go to the head of the class and say, children, I think I've already told you, you should not cheat, right? Because if you cheat, then I'll have to send you out of the hall. So please don't cheat. So you're not going to announce the name of the student who's been cheating. Maybe a couple of you will say, if I find anyone cheating in my classroom, I'm going to send him out of the hall, right? And do this very openly, right? Paul, out you go. And then you tell the class after Paul is exited, I had to do this because he's been cheating and I don't like anyone who's a cheat. I don't know if any one of you will choose option 5, right? I'm not sure any one of you will say, this student Paul was cheating. He deserves to be punished. So I'm going to take him to Headmaster Sridhara Murthy and have him expelled. Right? But these are decisions you will take based on not just your experience as a teacher, but your own personal inclination as persons, as human beings. Now, apply that to the Abraham Prize. Now take the handout out, please. Look at the Abraham Prize, right? Now, in a classroom, if I was teaching the Abraham Prize, I obviously wouldn't want to use the cheating student because that's meant for teachers. I'll find another way of dealing with the same issue of thematic introduction. So let me show you lesson plan for the Abraham Prize. Now take a look at the lesson plan, please. This should take less than 5 minutes and then we'll close. Step number 1 would be an introduction to the theme. So what we did yesterday with a poem, we need to do with a story too. So as I said yesterday, it would be very unprofessional to say, children, turn to page 65 and look at the story there, the Abraham Prize, and I'm going to teach you the story today, and plunge straight into it by saying, look at the first sentence, children, next Tuesday we're going to have a special exam in English, and so on. It's important that we introduce the theme first before they realize which text you're actually going to be teaching them in the ensuing period. So one obvious way of doing it is ask this question. Should we punish a student who cheats in an exam? And I've done this with real students using the Abraham Prize, right? I put them in pairs, I put them in groups, I've had a class discussion, etc. It's very interesting because children actually take the moral high ground. Most children, most students will say, we must punish a student, sir, when he cheats, right? Very interesting. But as they grow older and older and become your age and mine, maybe they soften, right? So basically we're saying find a way of punishing a student who cheats in an exam. How you do it is your business. When I did my first round of invigilation, seems like 200 years ago, in a college in Bangalore, before I moved to the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages in a year's time. This was a College of Arts and Science, very big college. And there were about 100 students in this examination hall, final BSc students. And it was a physics examination. They were all seated, the bell rang, and I distributed the question paper to everybody, and they settled down to answering the questions. I then came back to the front of the hall, picked up one of the question papers, which were still there on my table, and I looked at it. I was curious about what it is physics is all about at the BSc level. So I held the question paper in my hand and took a couple of steps and stood under the ceiling fan. At some point, I obviously was not holding the question paper firmly enough. It slipped out of my hands and went sailing across the aisle to the back of the hall, and it fell at the feet of an 18-year-old girl student who was wearing a sari. So I walked towards that girl, stood near her, and said, "Can I have that paper, please?" Would you believe it? She gently pulled her sari up to the knee, pulled out a piece of paper she was copying from, and gave it to me. And I said, "Thank you. Can I have that paper, please?" and pointed to the paper near her feet. Right? Now, that is an introduction too. Right? When you've done that, you can try doing two kinds of reading. Now, why am I saying that? I'm being practical. In a classroom, you have 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes as your teaching time, and you can't hope to finish a whole text in that 40 or 50 minutes, right? So what you do at the planning level, not in the classroom, at the planning stage at home, is to say, this is as much as I will teach tomorrow. And you then look at the Abraham Prize and you say, I'll go straight down to the bottom of the page. Please take a look at it, which says, "Just then Wai Choi noticed a large pen in the old man's pocket. Oh yes, I can prove that. I didn't write that note." You'll say, I'll go up to that point and pause. If there is enough time left, I'll carry on. Otherwise, I'll stop at that point. Now, when you do that, you're telling the children, now that I've introduced the theme, I'd like you to read the story from the beginning to the bottom of the page, whichever page it is, where it says, "I can prove that I didn't write that note," he cried. So the class will do what you've told them to do. They will read that portion of the text, and once they've finished reading, and indicate to you that they've finished reading by raising their hands, or you asking them, "Have all of you finished reading?" etc. You then have a very brief discussion of the content. This is still not a detailed exploration of the text. You simply want to find out whether they have understood the main developments of the story in this page. And then you ask this very important question. Right, now close your books, children. What do you think happens next? Right? Now, when you ask that question, you'll notice most children have actually shut the books and they are trying to figure out how to answer the question. One or two sneaky little fellas will actually be turning the page quietly to take a look at what's there on the next page. Now, why are they doing that? Because they've got caught up in the story, the structure of the story, the plot. They want to find out how the story ends. Whereas you asked a question that requires prediction, which is a legitimate type of comprehension question, which is why you ask what happens next, right? And you'll get a series of responses, and you then let them out of the agony, as it were, of what the story is all about, and saying, okay, now read the rest of the story, please. Right? And you give them a few minutes to read the remaining portion of the text, and you'll notice something very interesting. This portion of the story, they probably will read much more quickly than they probably did, I mean, the time they took to read the first part of the story. The reason's obvious, isn't it? When you tell them to read the first page of the story, they're kind of settling into it. They don't know what is in store for them. And you suddenly stop them halfway through. And then you say, how does the story end? When you ask that question, they're now beginning to feel like Sherlock Holmes, right? They want to find out what the ending is. Right? And therefore, the reading speed will go up. And once they're finished reading the story, you then have your discussion, right? Now, I've called it learning to read 1 and learning to read 2. And to use the same terms I used 10 minutes ago, in learning to read 1, you have a combination of factual and inferential comprehension questions. And very quickly, I'll give you an example from the questions. Take a look at the questions, please. Learn to read 1. Look at question number 8. It says, there's one mistake in each of these sentences. Spot the mistake. Yinki's note was written with a pencil. No, pen. Wai Choi wrote the exam with a pen. No, pencil. Wai Choi had a pen and a pencil. No, he had only a pencil. At the time the teacher saw him throwing back the note, Wai Choi had not completed question 11. Wrong. He had completed question 11. Right? The handwriting of the note was the same as Wai Choi's. No, it wasn't the same. Now, those are all facts explicitly mentioned in the text. So, it's a factual comprehension question. But look at question number 6. Do you think Wai Choi always rode his bicycle with his head down? How can you tell? Now, that's inferential, because the text does not say, normally Wai Choi would keep his head upright and write quite fast. But today, because he was depressed, disappointed, extremely sad, his head was stooping. And because his head was stooping and he was preoccupied, he didn't write fast. And because he wasn't looking where he was headed, he rammed his cycle into the old man. Now, the creative writer doesn't mention any of those facts. This is an inference you and I have made. In the second set of questions, we have evaluative and extrapolative comprehension. And I'll just mention one of those, right? Look at the last question. What might have happened if Wai Choi had not noticed the pen in the old man's pocket? Well, Wai Choi would have simply gone home, fretted, cried, right? Complained to his mother about how unfairly he's been treated. And the mother would have said, doesn't matter, don't worry, just a special exam. So what? You can go back to school tomorrow. You didn't cheat, so don't feel bad, etc. It wouldn't have been a very happy story. It becomes a happy story because Wai Choi sees that pen in the old man's pocket. And the old man, as you realize, is the doctor, the Abraham that is mentioned in the title, right? Right. For 2 minutes now, before we close shop, pull the shutters down, I want you to take down some dictation, right? Okay. Do you take a piece of paper out, please? Something on which you can write 6 or 7 lines. Could you please take your pens out too? I hope you can hear me clearly. Ravi, can you hear me clearly? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Right. Okay, I'm going to give you a dictation now, piece of dictation. It's based on the story you've just read, the Abraham Prize, so it shouldn't be difficult. I'm going to read it slowly so that you can all take it down. Can we start? Okay. On Tuesday morning, Wai Choi's school conducted a special exam in mathematics, full stop. In maths, full stop. Have you got that sentence down, everybody? Ravi? Madhavi?
Yes, sir.
You've got it down?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is everything okay? Is my reading speed okay?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
It's fine.
Did I make any mistake or anything?
No, sir.
No, I haven't made any
Yes,
mistake.
sir.
Oh, I did. What did I
It's
say?
not mathematics. It's not mathematics, sir.
What is
It's
it?
math, English.
It's English.
English. Okay,
Oh,
like that.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now you'll notice as I go along, because of the old age that I now suffer from, right? I'm going to make mistakes, right? Inevitable with an old man like me. But what you have to do is, when you hear me make a mistake, don't write that word down, the mistake. Write the right word down, the correct word down. Have you understood me? Okay. So I'm going to make mistakes, I have a feeling. So as you listen, if you find I'm making a mistake, correct the mistake and carry on. Right. I'm going to start again and I'm going to read at a steady pace. On Tuesday morning, Wai Choi's school conducted a special exam in maths. Full stop. The students began to do the exam. The students began to do the exam. Full stop. Wai Choi easily finished. Wai Choi easily finished the first 10 questions. He easily finished the first 10 questions. Full stop. Just then, Inky threw a piece of paper. Inky threw a piece of paper to him. To him, full stop. It read, colon, 2 dots, colon. What is the answer? What is the answer to question 15? What is the answer to question 15?
Question
Question.
11.
Question mark. No. Don't mention the corrections now. Carry on. Carry on. Question 15, question mark. Wai Choi got angry. Wai Choi got angry and threw the note back. And threw the note back to Inky. To Inky. Full stop. Full stop. The teacher saw this. The teacher saw this and asked Inky to leave the room. And asked Inky to leave the room. Full stop. When Wai Choi was riding home, he crashed into an old woman. An old woman, full stop. He said sorry. He said sorry and told him what had happened. And told him what had happened. Full stop. As they were talking, comma, Wai Choi noticed a large pencil in the old man's pocket. In the old man's pocket. Full stop. He immediately rushed back to school. He immediately rushed back to school. Full stop. He met his teacher. He met his teacher and convinced him that he had cheated and convinced him that he had cheated. Full stop. The teacher realized that he had made a mistake, and let Wai Choi complete the question. Complete the question. Full stop. Who do you think got the Abraham Prize? Who do you think got the Abraham Prize? Question mark. Question mark. Inky, of course. Inky, comma, of course. Exclamation mark. Inky, of course. Exclamation mark. And who presented the prize? And who presented the prize to Wai Choi? To Wai Choi on Sports Day? On Sports Day? Question mark. Last sentence. It was Dr. Abraham. It was Dr. Abraham, comma, the old man who Wai Choi, had knocked down with his motorcycle. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Okay, have you got that? Right. Now I'd like you to check your answers, please. Right? The mistakes I made are in white. The corrections are in green. Right? Quickly check your answers. How many of you have got everything right?
One
Only one.
one mistake.
Which one was that?
Yes.
Which one was
It
that?
is why choice complete the exam. I wrote exam and it is a question.
Ah, okay, that's okay. That's not a very prominent kind of error. Not to worry. Go good. So I'm glad most of you have got the answers right. Now,
Yeah, I was not able to figure out that it's a sports day, it's a school day.
that's right. That's right. I was cheating you a little bit, wasn't I? Okay. Okay. To go back to the lesson plan, finish what I was saying. The third kind of reading was a summary that I dictated to you. The summary of the story. But what kind of a summary was it? It was a summary filled with mistakes, right? And if you did this in class, you'll be amazed at how excited children become, right? So you say, just a minute. The very first sentence, right? You say, on Tuesday morning, White Choice School conducted a special exam in maths, right? And you pause just a little bit and you'll have 40 very angry pairs of eyes looking at you and saying, what kind of a teacher is this? She doesn't know what she herself has just taught us. And when you ask, did I make any mistake? They'll immediately tell you, teacher, you shouldn't have said maths, you should have said English. They're not going to be very polite because what you did, because you were being particularly respectful to the old man, you wrote down, some of you wrote down the mistakes. Children are not going to do that, right? So this is an excellent way of checking factual comprehension. And this is one of the 200 different kinds of dictation, right? I've done whole workshops only on dictation, and each one has a role to play. But I thought I should show you one little innovation that you can bring into your teaching. Right. I'll close by reading out a line from Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl died a few years ago. He was perhaps the best known 20th century children's writer, right? Wonderful writer. And this is what he said. If you are going to get anywhere in life, you have to read a lot of books. So I'm hoping, friends, that you will read a lot yourselves before you try and make your children read lots and lots. Thank you very much. And sorry for taking so much time, but I thought reading deserved the attention that I thought I gave it. And thank you very much. Happy teaching, right? And we'll stay in touch. If there's any question that you want to ask or a comment you want to make, do that quickly, because
Afternoon, sir.
yeah.
This is Sudha again.
Ah, yeah.